Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I do trust everyone as well on this lovely, lovely morning. My name is Rendani Tshivhula. Just a quick introduction. It's been a while since I've done a webinar with you guys, so I'm quite excited. But I'm currently the PR and Stakeholder Engagement Manager for the Plumbing Industry Registration Board. Now, for those perhaps who've heard or one of my webinar presentations in the past, I usually focus on topics such as corporate identity, the importance of branding, and having a professional image as a plumber or a company, because obviously our aim and our objective within this industry is to be professionally recognized or perceived by our consumers and people who we actually provide services for. So today's one slightly different, but it's definitely usually directly linked to the corporate identity. But today's topic is mainly about the importance of leadership and professionalism within our industry and how it has a ripple effect on the growth of the plumbing industry and why it's important to actually consider and be a professional leader within this industry. And I'll always start it with a very simple introduction. What is leadership? And most of the time, people tend to think that leadership has to do just specifically with a position. But in this stance, we are all leaders in some way because we are influencers within this industry. And then, my simple definition, leadership is using your area of influence, your area of expertise to empower and influence a certain group of people and also to ensure that they are able to empower themselves. And let's leave the complicated English. How does leadership align itself to our industry? Now, for those who know, I always brag about the plumbing industry being the heartbeat of society. And how leadership is so important is that as plumbers, as the plumbing industry of South Africa, we are responsible for literally transporting the most valuable commodity on earth, that commodity being water. So if we actually compromise our leadership and our element of influence in this industry, we are compromising the heartbeat of society. I mean, it goes without saying, without plumbers, there's no president. Without plumbers, there's no doctor. Without plumbers, there's no lawyers, because we deal with water and sanitation. Hence, why it's quite important that when it comes to the understanding and the importance of leadership within the industry, that we understand that we all have a key role to play. And my slide is quite simple. And as you see in my introduction, I've literally spoken about who I am and what my main purpose in the plumbing industry is. And I've just touched on the most valuable commodity, and bringing dignity to the industry. Now, the reason why I brought about leadership, ladies and gentlemen, is that within the plumbing industry, for those who don't know, we have these critical role players. You, the plumber, heartbeat of society. The consumer, the people we need to continuously empower and inform. The government, obviously, with legislation, South African Bureau of Standards, DTI, and all of that. The private sector and the media. But we're speaking about the first role player, you, the plumber, because you, the person who is in the detail and work. And how does leadership come to play within what you do? When we speak of leadership in the plumbing industry, we're talking about always remaining professional, never ever taking shortcuts, never compromising with the quality of your work, even when no one is watching, always having integrity to always treat the consumer and give the consumer the most professional service that could be provided, especially because we know most consumers aren't technically aware of the things that plumbers do. So there's that faith and that belief. It's actually trust that actually you are doing the right thing, unless, of course, that consumer is a technical person. But it's so important that we have integrity in the work that we do, in the service we provide, in ensuring that the consumer remains protected, even in ensuring that us ourselves as service providers within this industry, that we remember that we are ambassadors. Now, the reason why most industries end up growing, but also reach a certain point is that Most people don't understand their role. Remember, the moment you compromise in quality with your services and the work that you do, you're creating a ripple effect within the overall image of our industry. You see, everyone has a role to play. Hence, when I speak of leadership, it's not specific people. Everyone has an area of influence. If you are working with people and we are dealing with water, there's no opportunity or space or chance to literally compromise because you're an ambassador of this industry. We've got people's lives in our hands. Having a high level of work ethic, ensuring that we do not ever mislead the plumber, I mean, the consumer rather, and ensuring that the work that you do, even when no one is watching, the work that you do is at its highest level. You see, the benefits in this case, as the plumber, the first role player, is that we are adding now value to the industry. We are showing that together collectively, we are true ambassadors. What that will do is it automatically brings in a shift in perception. People don't just think of the plumber as someone who's dirty, someone who has no value or contribution. They don't just think of plumbers only when the water is not there or the toilet is not working or the geyser is malfunctioning. People end up respecting people who respect themselves and as well as the industry at large. So it's so important that as we do actually continuously moving with this industry and the work that we offer, that we must remember we are leaders of the industry. It doesn't take a title. You don't have to be an executive member of a specific organization to consider yourself as a key contributor to the plumbing industry of South Africa. You have to ensure that you're always professional, you're bringing value, your work ethic is high. But most importantly, here's another key word when we speak of leadership: you are also empowering. You're bringing the next generation into this industry. You know, I'm sure most of you work with people within your organizations. You can never work alone. You can never. You know, for those who are passionate about leadership, if you think about it, most greatest leaders in the past and currently in the future are not isolated by themselves. They have a team. And what makes your team strong is that you have to empower them. If you're working with appies, ensuring that you are there to empower and not to break. If you're working with new employees in your team, a leader is someone who ensures that they plant a seed of growth. They are inspirational, they are motivational to their team. You see, if you yourself can give those leadership attributes, for some reason, there's a ripple effect of that positive influence which sparks out. But where there's a leadership bankruptcy, you shall see as well. And remember, the consumer, people are always watching. You might never think that you're being watched, but there's always someone who's watching how you present yourself. If we were to link it to corporate identity, having a powerful and respectable brand, remember, you being part of the industry automatically makes you an ambassador. When people speak of plumbers at a regional level, at a provincial level, at a national level, they speak of people like you whom they see, whom also have the responsibility of ensuring that they portray this industry and this career as a respectable one. So if you yourself as the plumber don't ensure that you yourself respect this industry, we cannot expect those around us to also take it with a serious positive perception. So it's quite critical that we understand that we are the key role players because we do the work, but we can never do anything alone. These people are the decision makers. They decide which plumber to use. But we need to ensure that if we want to continuously having a great partnership with this role player, our leadership, our professionalism, our area of expertise can never ever be compromised. And just to also revive that spirit, we need to ensure that we're always empowering. Leadership is so important. And I know we're in this month right now, which is August. I'll give an example on how leadership is so important within this industry. It is Women's Month, all right? And if I have the stats correctly, if I understand, I believe that in general, the statistics are under 4% of female participation within the plumbing industry. When people still think of plumbing, they think of plumbing as just a male orientated career. There's still that perception. And look, let's be optimistic. There is growth. There are young ladies who are joining the industry who are taking ownership. But to be quite honest, what are we, what are you doing as someone who's been in the industry of the opposite gender being male to ensure that we can actually change the perception around female participation within the plumbing industry? What's going to make people understand that this industry is all inclusive? It actually embraces the participation of women. It's you, the plumber as well. You have a right of changing that perception. You have a right of mentoring a young female and making sure that women understand that, hey, you are more than welcome in this industry. Because there's this famous saying of, you can always have a piece of the pie. Here's something I love about the plumbing industry. We don't have pieces of pies. We've got baking powder. We've got flour. We make pies because there's so much that's enough for everyone. We are dealing with water. So where's our leadership when it comes to the inclusivity? When we speak transformation, people tend to get hesitant. But where's the leadership? And it has to come from all angles. When it comes to the participation of people living with a disability, where's our industry? Where's our leadership? And I've always mentioned this to industry experts such as Steve Brown, your Richard Baileys, as well as your Lee Smiths. I have to say this, and Brendan as well, who's an IOPSA, the executive director. I said, the plumbing industry has so many great things that it's doing, but we're such a humble industry. There's so many great things that plumbers are doing out there, but people aren't aware of. It's very important. It's very important that we do make people aware of these things. We have to have more industry role models so that the next generation can be empowered and can also feel like the gates have been opened for them to also prosper within this industry. But it all goes back down to leadership. The leadership element, the leader in you, your part, your participation, your professionalism, your energy of empowerment. We need to ensure that we understand that leadership is not necessarily just for certain individuals within the industry. We are all there. What is the goal? We want to be a leading example of what the plumbing industry should be like in the continent and perhaps even globally. But you can never do it individually. I think Nelson Mandela did say this. You can't punch with a finger. You can never achieve anything with that. But collectively, when you put all fingers together, we create a strong punch, which is a strong force. And collectively, we need to play our role. We are all systematically connected and we have systematic roles that we need to play to ensure that we grow this industry. But it all boils down to leadership. Leadership. What kind of ambassadors do we have within the plumbing industry? And here's another benefit of the industry when it comes to leadership. What leadership does, it strengthens the core of any industry. It changes the perception of how people view this. Once we start taking ourselves even more professional, collectively, you will not settle for anything that's mediocre. And you will never allow any other plumber to ensure that they create a dent within the positive reputation, the perception that we're trying to build within the industry of plumbing. So it's quite critical that you understand, without leadership, there is no growth. Without your contribution as a plumber, there is absolutely no growth. You are a critical role player. We transport water, which is the most valuable commodity on earth. And if we don't play our own part, we are going to compromise how plumbing in general and what we've achieved thus far with when it comes to our perception. So leadership is everything. Where there's no leadership, people shall crumble. And the beautiful thing about this is what we want to achieve is progressive growth. Don't think individualistically. Think about everything around you. Think about the industry. It's so important. Once we can all establish that part and all do things with an ethical and a high level of moral code. Because yes, the truth is we work with money. Yes, the truth is we want to work and grow our companies. But more importantly than growing individually, we need to ensure that we grow collectively. And that means everyone doing their part. We're a system. Believe it or not, you're a system. You're part of a system. Everything is systematic globally and here in the country and continentally. We are a system. A system is made up of unique parts that all are interdependent and with the aim of of achieving one key objective. And our objective is to grow this industry. So I know leadership is not usually the most popular topic, but I think it's something that we should talk about consistently because we can clearly see there's a leadership bankruptcy, not just in our industry, but perhaps nationally and even continentally. But are we going to complain about it, or can we as an industry do something about it? We are the one industry that can change this life because we deal with water. I always make people understand, and I give this example, especially when we're doing media interviews on radio and television with regards to the industry. I'm like, just take a second to think if all the plumbers in South Africa decided to strike just for an hour, just 1 hour. Do you understand the disaster that could happen? Do you understand the amount of injury, deaths that could possibly happen? And I think that's when people start to think, wow, I've never looked at it that way. The pain of not having running water in your house just for that day because of maintenance work or whatever it may be, it's so painful. So you are a key person within society. But you need to ensure that you understand you're not just a person, you're a leader. You're an ambassador of the plumbing industry of South Africa. So let's rise up. There's room for improvement. We can all acknowledge that. We have to be all inclusive. That starts with leadership. We have to inspire the next generation. That's part of leadership. We have to treat consumers and people we do services for with a high level of work ethic and always professional, without compromising good values and always giving our best. Even if these people do not understand what we're doing, never compromise when it comes to pricing. Always doing things the right and legitimate way, because what it does is it has a ripple effect on the industry. So I know this is not the most popular topic, but I would love to encourage more engagement around this. And I think that's what's going to help us as an industry to grow. Once your leadership, your character as an individual, your character within your organization, your company, once you have a proper, good understanding and practice of good leadership, watch the value that you'll be adding into our industry. And guess what? We could be the key core and the root solution to probably encouraging effective leadership in society. So from my side, didn't talk too much about branding today, but I thought it would be very critical to touch on something that's more character driven, something that can have more positivity. And it's a Monday. Why not, because leadership is like water. It can be in any shape, any form, but it will forever have influence. And that's why I really wanted to talk about leadership. I think sometimes we ignore the most important topics and we try and separate them from our industry. And I think enough is enough. Let's do the right things. Let's be an example. South Africa needs us to be professional. There's so much room. There's so much we can achieve as an industry, and there's so much we are already achieving. But let's do more. Let's share a common vision to make plumbing. And I say this with all respect. And I know some of our role players, such as institutions of higher learning, they're like, Randy, we need to hear your famous line. But let's make plumbing look sexy. Let's make plumbing look good. Let's make plumbing look like Superman. And it can be done without overdoing anything, but just practicing good leadership, always being professional, keeping our values, and ensuring that we do our part as an individual to add that positive effect to the collective mass. So if there's any questions, please feel free to engage me. I always love engagement sessions more than just one individual just sharing. I think engagements can literally always teach us as well. And maybe even if you just want to give a comment, it would be great. But from my side, today's topic was about leadership and the plumbing industry. Didn't want to have 20 slides or, because I think this is as self-explanatory as possible. We need leadership. And if we do have it, if it's good, you don't understand what good means once you understand great. Then let's change and add and chase greatness. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I look forward to your questions and comments.
Thank you very much. We currently don't have any questions, so we'll give it another minute just to see if anyone has a question or just something to give back. But yeah, we'll just wait a minute.
Thank you, Byron.
Is there anything you'd like to add, Steve, before we end it?
Yeah, I think just a question for Rendani, and thank you very much for this morning. But as you are the traveller, you've been in KZN, you're currently up in Northwest or Northern Cape, and you travel. And how are you finding, in terms of what you were discussing this morning, with the plumbers that you engage with in the road shows, and what are you taking away from those, Rendani?
Thanks for that question, Stephen. Yes, we are currently on the road show. We are in Kimberley, and we'll also be going to Bloemfontein after this. And it's so interesting, when we engage the plumbers, and this is a common thing that we find everywhere, the people we usually engage are people who really are passionate about the work that they do. They're proud to be plumbers, but you can see that there's this feeling of, you feel that almost like we'll do it because we love it, but we still viewed like we're just the ordinary guy in an overall that's not adding value in society. And we always it's so good when we just remind the plumber that, hey, and I think I love seeing the smile on people's faces when you say, do you know that you're the heartbeat of society? Do you know that you are responsible for ensuring that water is brought into households and taken out properly? Do you know that without you, there's no judge, there's no president, there's no, and we shift away from technical discussions and you realize their steam starts coming back. It's almost like they needed that reminder to say that you're an asset in society and just keep on doing great. Make sure you don't compromise. And it's so beautiful to see it everywhere. People are really proud of being part of the industry. And of course, yes, not everyone's going to be happy. You do get the grumpy friends that come and join us, but our aim is not to argue. Our aim is to share. And we always listen to what uncertainties there are there. And another important, and thanks, Steve, for raising this, because there's one part I should have mentioned in leadership. A critical, important part about leadership is also communication, listening, getting feedback, not just talking, but also listening. And we get to listen to certain frustrations. Some are legislature frustrations, some have to do with the COC, some have to do with CPD, if not all CPD, but it's so good that we communicate. But that's the thing. There's active participation within our industry and there's growth. People are starting to really take themselves extremely serious, and they're not just viewing themselves as the guy who just goes around unblocking drains. They feel their walks are changing because they're proud to be associated with the professional body. Their walks are changing because they know that they're connected with the institution of Plumbing South Africa. It gives them a sense of dignity, pride, and a positive esteem. So that's the positive that we do see everywhere we go. And it's so good to see that people, also consumers are also starting to be aware of, hey, we need to use a licensed plumber. We need to use a professional plumber. I cannot just compromise. If I'm going to a doctor, I can't just ask the doctor, doctor, can I please have half price? Why would you do that to a plumber? So we create that awareness as well. And there's also that participation from the consumers, which is also exciting. So thank you for that question, Steve. It really gave me an opportunity to share what's happening around with the roadshow.
And thanks for that, Rendani. And I think, it's, sometimes being on the outside, it's good to engage with the plumbers and to hear. We do it every day. And there's a lot of passion out there, as you've just raised. There's a lot of interest. There's a lot of keenness. there's a lot of willingness to learn. And I think, part and parcel of what we learn on a Monday or a Tuesday or a Thursday is exactly that, giving back to the industry, trying to make ourselves better. We're not perfect. Open up to just listen and hear and try and make a difference. And I really just thank you for, what you've been doing. And have a great roadshow. And Byron and everybody, thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. And we'll chat on Thursday.
Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day as well and a fantastic week.